Get out the insurance cards, get out the copays. The office is open, my friends. Brought to you by drroto.com.
Yo, everybody, it's Yola Riding. So let's get to it.
Bring the pain!
What's up, everybody? It's Heat Override, and I'm ready to bring the pain for you this week on the Fight Club of Pain. But this is ain't no normal Fight Club. I got Dan with me. You're used to Dan. We talk UFC, but today this is all about betting and fantasy sports in general. 101. I have Ed with me, Fantasy Clown in the sports industry, a massive bettor at Dr. Roto to talk dynasty football as well too, and just different strategies that you see maybe going on. A lot of us are drafting. Apparently my draft started, so I don't even know if they've got to my pick 10s because I'm the champion. How you guys doing today? Talk at it. Who's first? Dan? Ed?
Oh, man. Go ahead, Ed.
Well, thank you guys for having me, and I guess I'm just here to be part of it. I did do some betting on the UFC, I think last weekend, and got a win, and it was a plus money bet. So I always like those plus money bets. So, whoever we has. I don't even know who I'm betting on. I just, grab the handicap, and it's more about smarter people than me. And I did notice that you had it on your card. So I was like, okay, at least I'm going with a guy that is on your card. So there's two reasons to bet.
Yeah, that was, dude, when you said you were throwing that in, I was like, woo, all right. And that's what I've been doing, and that's what this whole episode is about. We're here to talk about like how I was able to, and how you are able to, most experts in the industry are able to take that same formula and with a few tweaks in there, able to move it and become successful in another DFS sport. And that's practically what happened with me moving from baseball or the MLB and the NFL to the UFC, picking up something in the off season that I've been totally become enthralled with, man. And seeing you get that bet and get that was cool. Although I'd rather you'd have been like, hey, do you think this bet's hitting? And I'd be like, yeah, that guy's hitting it. You just threw it in, and I was like, all right, buddy.
So really where that came from was I tail a couple different people, and it was their best bet of the day, and I just progressionally bet up on wins. I mean, it's really the same way I play blackjack, honestly. It just is progressionally up on wins. I go back to the starting point on losses, and I just understand that a pro handicapper, their job is to get people to follow them by winning, right? So they're trying to win. I find where they put their best bet of the day. I just track their best bet, and I do it. I've done it now for 2 years for some of these people, so I have enough history on them. They're making 365 bets a year. Like they do this full time. I just steal their stuff. Like I legitimately just say I'm going to make money based on what they do because they do this full time and they're the best in the world. And so that was his bet of the day, and I'm like, all right, let's do it. And so, that's kind of what it is. So my betting is all math. It's like a math game. It's really about just beating the house edge. And then I'm fortunate living in New York State. I have 10 different sports books. So realistically, a lot of times other people are betting maybe plus 140. I'm getting plus 160 on the same bet. So I don't have to win that bet as many times.
Exactly.
And so that's kind of what it is. It seemed like I was real smart. That was Santos on Saturday night is who we won, and I had to go back and look. And I'm such a novice. I'm just like looking at ESPN, refreshing the screen and see if I win. Like I don't even know. Like I have no idea. What it is. I'm just like, oh, I guess I won. That's great.
Well, and what led to the Santos fight is actually I didn't pick that bet, at least for me. I didn't pick that until we had our show on last Thursday. And the reason is because I wanted to talk about Myron Santos, that is Dan, who's he's talking about him being able to get in there and do work. And it was kind of like a comeback match for him because his previous match, he practically got his ass whipped by Francis Marshall, and he should have lost. And then the evil, corrupt judges gave Santos the win. So I didn't complain on my betting side, on my parlay side, but at the same time, this is one of those things like this is either like you needed redemption. He needed redemption, and this was the perfect opportunity for him. So he was able to cash in. But dude, I bet 75% of my DF of my pretty much my bank roll on Morales at the end. I literally took everything. I had all the bets from Bellotto. I took all that and I threw it all and everything else I practically had on Morales knockout. And dude, when he diced up Burns in that first round, I was like crazy. But that was even nuts too, because when Dan brought up the knockout and we were exploring that, those knockout, those same knockout bets went down 4,000 units or odds, went down 4,000 on the day of the fight, whereas 2 days earlier, they were at an 11,000. So it was almost like the sites were a little scared to pull the trigger on that. And they said, hey, let's not have that much money. And I'm always going to say, because they watch us at Dr. Roto. They were like, heat overrides explode. He's telling us out. So let's move that back to a 6,000. So there wasn't as much money. But Burns, that was just a lucky shot. I took Burns and Myron Santos just winning by decision, and I threw 10 cents on it, and the return was going to be $280.
Oh
I was like, I just, it was one of those shots. Like, for me, if I'm going to throw 10 cents down and see where the hell it goes. I'm going to make the craziest bet in the world. Of course, the bigger bets that I'm more, I'm in tune with, like when I had that the 5-leg parlay on baseball a few days ago, that I threw, like $5, that's my normal unit. I threw that on, but I should have threw more. But who cares? Like, it's all money that we're winning for our bank rolls for football anyway, right?
Right. And I think it's important to, I guess my theory on is to be very consistent. Keep your betting. Again, it's a math thing for me. So I kind of throw the same thing out until there's a reason to not throw the same thing out. And I don't want to think, feel, or believe. I want to use math to guide my decisions. And okay. So, like, for instance, I will practice things, scenarios, and now with AI, it's kind of actually crazy. AI's helped me with my baseball betting. So really one of my bets of recent times is I bet home underdogs every time. And I was kind of chuckling because, as you notice, I'm a Phillies fan, or you can forgive me for that. But basically, the Phillies just swept the Colorado Rockies on a 4-game sweep. So today, on the Rockies, I had $100. But it wasn't $100 fresh. It was basically I had bet $20 on the Rockies game 1, 30 game 2, 40 game 3, now 50 on game 4 because I'm betting against that sweep. But then I have a home underdog bet of $25. We're at 75. And then I had against the sweep 25 bet, and that was like ridiculously minus a run and a half. I always do a run line bet on my sweeps against a sweep. And what that does is it gets me this was plus 400. If that wins, all I need is them to win that one game and I cash flow out. Now, kind of ironically, there's about 12% of the time the 4-game sweep. So that's the math. If you go over the last 10 years in baseball, that's what the math is. So I know I'm going to lose that bet, and luckily it was today, with the Rockies. But what I found with just even home dogs is it's profitable month over month. And I guess that's what I'm looking at. I'm like, so then it becomes how much money do I want to win? Do I want to do it at a $25 level? Do I want to do it at a $10 level? Do I want to do it at a $100 level? And I don't do anything at a $100 level. It works. I just don't have the bankroll for that. So I guess I don't feel like I do everything at a $10 level. Like today, I just had this wild idea. This might be the second time I bet on home runs. And so I put a 3 home run parlay together today at $5. But I kind of had it and it was our friend at Roto Wire. I just kind of caught it this morning on their, or maybe it wasn't even Roto Wire. I don't know. One of the XM shows. I caught it this morning. I'm like, you know what? What the heck? I'll throw $5 at the problem. Maybe FanDuel will give me a boost and I'll really have some money. One of the games got rained out. I was on a rain out for the shortstop for the Red Sox. I forget his name. But yeah, I had him. I was on him.
Not Acuna. No. Is it Luis Angel? No, that's.
No, he came over. Well, it used to be a shortstop. He came over from the Rockies, and now he's on the Red Sox.
I'm
a shortstop. Anyway, I had him, and then I don't know if Bohm hit a home run. I didn't even look, but I had Bohm, and and they only scored 2 runs or something. So I don't know if I even got there. And then I have Naylor tonight, but and I'm like, well, the 3 for $5, I think it paid out like 280 or something. And I'm like, well, I guess we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Trevor Story?
Yeah, Trevor Story. That's who it was.
Okay, all right, yeah.
I don't know. There's somebody said that. I mean, these were all plus $700 bets. So put 3 of them together, and you've got a crazy parlay. And then I thought, well, I'll be mad if I lose on it, so I'm going to put $5 on each of the guys to hit singly, just to make sure I get $50 if they hit. You know what I mean? And cover that, because I'll be frustrated if I go 2 out of 3 or something like that. Would be awful. So I did that too. But yeah, so I guess
it happens.
But very rarely do I do those kind of things. I guess it was more that I was just kind of today. I heard it, and I'm like, okay, I heard that. And on opening day, I hit that Cardinal guy that hits a home run every time today. That was the only other one I've played this year, and that guy did.
Ryan O'Hearn.
Yeah, so that's kind of what baseball is, and I feel like because I don't know anything about baseball, or I think I don't know anything about baseball attached, I can bet just math. I don't say, oh, the Rockies stink. I'm not going to bet on them. I'm like, no, they're the home underdog. I'm going to put my money on them, and 8 times this year I win. Like that's kind of
exactly.
And really, it's about there were 6 home underdogs today, and it's really about the total that matters, right? It's not really about whether each and every game wins. And I guess I can look and see where we are today. But like yesterday, I lost $19 on 6 home dogs, and I only won 2 of the 6. But I was down $19 on $25 bets. But the day before, I was up 59. So, you can afford to be down 19 as long as you're up 59. Now today I'm 1-1. I got the Blue Jays and I dropped on the Rockies. So now we'll see what happens with the Pirates, the Nationals, and the Astros tonight. So it's kind of like, I just go down the betting line and just get the best odds I can on them and see what happens. So that's kind of
So you're like a numbers guy.
Yeah.
So that's actually perfect because I also believe in like hot streaks. But right now I want to bring in Dan for that. Now after that was just like literally explosion from both of us. Dan, what did you read from all that? A bunch of gibberish of betting that you don't care about, or
bro,
did you understand?
I'm not gonna lie to you. It all sounded like Japanese to me.
Okay.
Nothing made sense. Nothing.
So exactly. And so what would make sense for somebody like you would be, okay, so you're not going to be somebody that bets. And you're actually the prime example of like people who get into betting or DFS and want a DFS team and start playing in $100 leagues. And then you're like, well, I need something. So then you go to Dr. Roto, you use code word doc, and you get a little subscription. You get into the Discord and you join up, and then you start talking. One of the guys that won massive change for us last year, I'm going to say it was 6 digits. I know it was 6 digits because he didn't talk much after he won that. It literally, he was gone the rest of the year. And I don't know if you know who I'm talking about, Ed, but he literally, he was part of the Fantasy 101 class that I did last year. And once he kind of learned it, he was in those rooms taking a bunch of our lineups, moving them around with DFS football. And so he was able to take those lineups, and on a couple of the hot weeks, he played in just the right contest, and it put him way over. And the funny thing is I had a lineup that scored, I think, 10 more points than his lineup, but because I was in a $5 league, I'm only going to win like $200. But because he was in a small contest, I think it was a $100 league. Because he was in that, he was able to get a chance at that big prize, and the scoring was lower. And that's something I also wanted to talk about with DFS. So that's why when I said, hey, go to DraftKings, Dan, make it. And then so when I'm talking the numbers on the show, you kind of know what I'm getting at, kind of where the lineup build. But using DraftKings, have you kind of seen how the numbers work?
No, I just look at the names that I like. Not gonna lie, I don't look at any numbers.
And that's fine. That's fine.
And do you start? How many lineups do you do in a given week? or even in baseball. I don't play DFS in baseball at all. I'm strictly a bettor, but in football, I'm more of a DFS player than I am a bettor, because that's where I feel like there's more novice money. It's almost like playing poker at the casino.
Yeah.
I'm better at, and I also have a belief that Vegas is very sharp in football, and I can't say I can't beat Vegas, but I'm unlikely to beat Vegas with numbers. So there, I'd rather play against other people and pay the vig to the other people. So I tend to play single entry places in DraftKings, and I guess that's my gambling is very disciplined, and I think that's probably what you get from me. So I do different things, but it's very disciplined, and so the same thing's true in DFS. I play one lineup, disciplined. I put it everywhere. If my guy gets hurt, I know it's over for me. But I got those lineups from you guys Sunday mornings with listening to you and Doc. Like, that's where I get my lineup for DFS. Like, I'll get it. You guys will be talking about some obscure running back. I'm like, yeah, that's going to save me money. He's in. Like, you guys don't even know that you're telling me that. You're like doing start sits or something. And I'm like, that's the DFS move for me. That's going to be enough variance. And then I'm like, cheap. Okay. Let me see what I can do with that guy's usage.
That's where like some of the calls, like, okay, we had Cedric Tillman last year, 2-touchdown game, literally 1.7% owned. And then, somebody who always gets the ball but never gets the ball, everybody thinks he's just this chump, is actually one of the guys that we're talking about. Dan's his tight end for his team, Pat Fryermuth. He gets the ball every single week because the Steelers have always had that, what I like to call the Heath Miller package. Yeah. And the Heath Miller package has existed for a long time. So somebody like me would be like, all right, I know that the Heath Miller package exists. I know that they're going to run this, and I know that that's what they're going to do. And that's what the Steelers literally do all the time. And the only thing they don't do with Fryermuth that they did with Miller was the little shovel pass underneath kind of running play. They used to love the shit out of that. You remember that, Dan?
Yeah. They also don't throw the ball over the middle ever.
I think you'll see.
That's what they don't do.
I think you'll see with Rodgers, there'll be a lot more check downs. He likes tight ends. And I also think that Denzel Washington on an Artie Smith, an Arthur Smith offense, he's known for the backup tight end. Like, I swear to God, he uses every backup tight end. And Washington is a freaking beast. And he gets the ball. So, I am all over him in Dynasty because, again, he's a free square. And, like, a guy like that, like, that's the guy. So if you're a Steelers fan, that's my guy from the Steelers that I like. I do feel pretty strongly that, I don't know what but I as far as the inside, but I feel pretty strongly that my sources are telling me Rodgers comes and is their quarterback. Like, that's pretty well done.
So my thing is, do you really think Rodgers is going to run the Arthur Smith offense? Because
so I do.
He's not.
I do. I think this.
He's not.
He ran Mike's offense in Green Bay, both Mike's offense in Green Bay. Okay. He complained a lot. He likes to win. He likes to check down. He likes to not look stupid. All those things are actually Arthur Smith. Those are all Arthur Smith. Arthur Smith likes to run the ball. So does Rodgers.
All right, so
throw it in the end zone at the end and get the touchdown.
He doesn't want to look stupid, but explain our quarterbacks for the last 6 years.
Well,
are you including Roethlisberger in that?
No. Except for Roethlisberger.
Well, Artie Smith just came last year. That was his first year.
Well, yeah, but I mean, even last year, all of the quarterbacks looked like they had no idea what they were doing.
Well, let's go to Russ. So Russ, the reason he got run out of Denver, the reason he got run out of Pittsburgh is Russ is a throw it down the field guy, right? He likes to see it, throw it. He wants to throw to the perimeter. He's going to be a guy for neighbors. Like, that's what he's going to be. He's Aaron Rodgers. I'm sorry. He's Josh Allen light. Like, that's why they like him in the Giants. I mean, really, he's a heaver. He's a freaking heaver.
He can't see over the middle of the field. If it's not outside the hashes, he ain't throwing the ball.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So he's a throw it down the field outside. He likes to throw. And remember, let Russ cook when he and Pete Carroll had it out because Pete wanted to run and he wanted to throw. And when they started, you remember they had that great start to the year, and then all of a sudden Pete's like, no, we're running the ball, and then he went in the tank. And I guess I'm saying so that's probably not him. He doesn't fit that. That's why Arthur's like, no, I want anybody else to be the quarterback of this team, not Russ. He's like, I don't care who we have. We'll have anybody.
So
anybody's better than Russ.
So what about Fields then? Like, and
he sucks.
I think that Fields, and so now I'm friends with his former coach. So, I guess I know the inside from what he thinks. I think Fields has talent. Okay. Fields is a lot like Mariota. So, I think Mariota with a better arm. Mariota wasn't a bad quarterback when he first came out in Tennessee, though.
He sucked.
So they suck.
Well, no, but Mariota was a Pro Bowler in Tennessee. When he came out, he was a Pro Bowler in Tennessee. Like, the guy was okay at football until
Trent Dilfer made the Pro Bowl. He also won a Super Bowl, but he sucked.
Trent Dilfer was good in that system, like Flacco was good in his system in Baltimore. So what is Fields going to be this year? He's going to be pretty good at handing the ball off, and he's going to throw to his boy from Ohio State every down. Like, that's probably what happens. And
if the first read isn't open, he dumps it to the running back.
And he'll probably get sacked. He'll probably
he's a bum.
So taking Fields in New York, everybody loves Breece Hall. Everybody loves him, and this is the reason why. They love him because of that. They love Allen because of that. But here's my thing. The one thing in fantasy football outside, if you're a standard league, this is going to make total sense. Fields takes your touchdowns. Look at Najee Harris's touchdowns and how they were at the first and goal, and how Fields just kept taking that ball and and how the Jets never really committed to, Hall at the goal line. It always felt like he was more of the catching back. He could have. What's that?
I'm worried about Hall. You said everybody wants him. I'm worried about him. I think Wilson is the guy to have for the Jets. Fields and Wilson. And Fields not as an NFL quarterback. Fields is a fantasy quarterback. Has always been really good. And as long as his leash is there for this year, he's probably a 1-year deal. Like he has a 2-year deal, but it's really a 1-year deal. The money says we get out of it after this year if he's not a stud. So if he's Darnold. If he does a Darnold last year, then he'll get it to play another year. If he's, a Schloozy, then he's all done after this year, and they'll draft a quarterback. I really think that's where he's at. But I think Wilson's a stud as a receiver, and I think the Ohio State connection is real. Like, I think that will. And why not? Why not pepper the best receiver on the team? Why not pepper him like that? He probably can do that.
The Raiders don't do that shit. The Raiders just don't believe that. It's like,
I think the Raiders are different this year. Now, I'm not sure what that means, but I think that Pete Carroll brings some credibility. It's kind of like Sean Payton to Denver in year one. This will probably be, I don't know if that's playoff bound because not everybody can go to the playoffs in the AFC West, but I think they're better than laughable, if that makes sense. Like,
it does.
Yeah, I think they're.
So you came in with Rodgers. Dan doesn't want Rodgers like most Steeler fans, but I've been having this thing. This whole Rodgers situation smells like what he did with the Jets, how he would hold out for a long time, how the teammates would hold back on him.
I think I figured out the Rodgers thing, and it makes a lot of sense if you think about it from the club standpoint. He's got something going on in his personal life. Now, I don't know. Pat Kerwin is an executive.
Two people he knows has cancer. They came out and said it. He's taking care of 2 different people with cancer.
And so, whatever it was, and that sounds likely, he's got to take care of what he's got to take care of. If he signs the contract before training camp, right? Now we got to explain why he's missing training camp, and they miss it to all the veterans. And are we going to find him or not find him? Are we going to? But if he just signs when he's ready to come to work, then he just signs when he's going to come to work. And there was some assurances that if they didn't bash him on the radio, you'll understand and it makes sense. And when the NFL Network's kind of saying don't bash him on the radio because it's going to make sense when it makes sense, and the Steelers are telling the NFL radio that, I'm like, okay, this is okay. They wanted to kind of shut down NFL radio from talking bad about him, and I think it kind of told me, okay, the Steelers know what's going on. There's some assurances. This is just a good PR move for them. And realistically, for the install, he probably doesn't need to be that much of a part of it as long as his timing is there. And I guess he's working out with Metcalf all the time. Like, I guess they're bros or whatever the heck they're doing. Like, they're out broing it up. And
it's a new system, though. I mean, it's a new play caller. It's a new everything for him.
Didn't he and Artie Smith have some past, though? I believe.
I can't. I wouldn't be.
I thought that there's some history or something there. And, yeah, I mean, I do think that as much as I didn't like Rodgers in the Jets, so you guys didn't know me then, but I thought it was the most ridiculous thing in the world. I said, it's like letting the guy run the show. Like, you can't let a quarterback run the show unless it's Peyton Manning. I believe that. Like, you just can't. You can't do it. And it didn't work. Why I think it works in Pittsburgh is because I don't think he does run the show. I think Mike Tomlin runs the show. Like, I do not think. I think he understands you do not get to run the show. That this is Artie Smith's offense, and I will do it that way. And this is my shot to win: is to listen to Artie because he's been around here. Mike's been the longest tenured coach in the NFL for the same team, and that's why we're going to listen to what that is. This isn't like some
with no playoff wins since 2011. Let's go.
But I think you guys can win, and I think right now maybe that's the holdup with the T.J. Watt side too. Maybe they're like, look, we want to pay Watt, but we have to talk to Aaron first, bring him in. Because, look, I would be fine with the Steelers going with Mason Rudolph, seeing where they can get him while Will Howard learns, and then bringing in Will Howard if the season is kaput. And people go, well, the Steelers don't lose like that. But I would take a future quarterback build over that. But if Rodgers comes in, Dan, what do you think about that? On both situations, without Rodgers and with Rodgers, as a growing for Will Howard, because I think that's where your future is.
So without Rodgers, I think the Steelers, they're going to start Mason Rudolph. I think he lasts 5 games. And he'll be the bum that he is, and Will Howard will come in. And hopefully he does good and wins some games. Truthfully, I see the Steelers only winning like 7 games this year.
That's hard.
So you think that this is the worst year of the Steelers, Dan, in the last year?
And yeah, since Cowher. Yeah.
So I feel like that Cleveland still has a road, a ways to go. I think that Cincinnati's kicking themselves in the back because they can't sign their defensive guy, and that's critical. Like that, there's more to that story So I actually think the Steelers are the second place team in the division. I'm pretty sure that Rodgers is there. So I feel like that's almost in my mind, like I almost have that kind of. I don't know of any other way because they'd behave differently if that wasn't going to happen. I mean, you could bring in Wentz, but I don't think that that's really going to happen. I think that they're pretty set with where they are, and I'll be shocked if they go that direction. But I think that would be the direction if they didn't bring Rodgers. I also like Will Howard though, and I like him when he asked for the playbook on Friday of the draft. Like he asked for the playbook. Like there's things like that I listen to, and I'm like, you know what, this guy's a baller, and coaches want to hear that, and he's made a positive impression around the building. I mean, I'm looking at Latrobe to see, okay, how do they respond? How do they respond in the huddle to this guy? That was the clue for Jaden Daniels last year. He ran the offseason program by far better than any rookie had ever run it, like according to people that were there seeing him. They're like, this guy in between plays takes the whole offense down to the end zone, and they practice, toe tapping. And making sure they stay in bounds, and they're practicing stuff, and these guys are all listening. Terry McLaurin is listening to the rookie. Like he's just following the rookie down there. Like that didn't happen ever in his career before, that he was following a rookie around or a quarterback around. And I'm like, this guy's a leader of men, and just as a rookie. And so I think there might be a little bit of that in Howard. And I guess I'm interested to see how that goes. Now, the Steelers are in great position in that position, I think, because they can afford to, watch and see what they have with it. I mean, if Rodgers gets hurt, they'll get to see because there'll be a couple games of Rudolph, but they know that routine. And the second they're not in the playoff hunt, they're going to see what they have with Howard. And that's probably the most likely situation. Of course, as you guys know, a numbers guy, right? So 21 of the potential of the starting quarterbacks missed more than their bye week last year. That's why I know. And 19 the year before and 22 the year before. And so that's why I always have lots of quarterbacks. I'm known as a quarterback hoarder in leagues. But the real reason is because they get hurt at a high rate and there's a limited supply of them. So when I have 8 of the starters, then I know I at least don't have to beg for one. I can always just next man up it. Well, the same is true when you start to look around. You're like, well, okay, these guys are going to miss more than their bye week. They're going to miss 2 or 3 games, like on an average. 60% of the quarterbacks in the NFL miss games. And so, there's a good chance that Rodgers, even there, will miss games. Like, he'll probably miss some games. So then you're going to get to see what you have with the young guys. And, the second Rudolph doesn't win games and you're not in the playoffs, then it's time to see what you have. I mean, that's
So what do you think, Dan? What's that synopsis there?
So I'm not making any plans for Rodgers like he is because he's not signed yet. So I'm going with the roster we have right now.
Okay.
Yep.
So the roster we have right now, we do not have a starting caliber quarterback at all
I'd like to see
on any level.
either. I don't like your running back situation.
I love the running back situation. I love Jalen Warren and this Kyron rookie kid. I love them. I love the running backs. The receivers don't bother me, but who is getting them the ball? Who is getting them the ball? That's my thing.
I think you'll have that answer. They're going to bring somebody in because you don't go to camp with what they have. You don't go with 3 quarterbacks to camp. They go with 4.
No, they're going to sign somebody else. They're going to sign somebody else, but we don't know if it's Rodgers yet. If it is Rodgers, hopefully it is. Hopefully it is right now.
You're trading for Flacco, man.
Dude,
Flacco.
Not going to lie. I'd rather have Kenny Pickett back right now at this point in time.
You might be able to get him for a box of
No, I think I've heard that New Orleans is a possibility for Pickett. That is really a possibility. Again, there's still Wentz. I mean, remember, he's well thought of around the league. And the reason that he's not back in Kansas City is because they like him. They wanted him back. There was some options, and I'm not sure if Minnesota. So I don't know what those options are. I just know there were options from inside, and they said, "Well, we can't wait for you to figure out where you're going to go start." They believed that he was going to get to go have a chance to start, and he wasn't. And for Pat Mahomes, so they said, "Well, let's get Gardner in here because we want a good backup." And then they have Bailey Zappi as well. But I don't know. They didn't know anything about New Orleans. That was not known at that time. Nobody knew any of that. But Minnesota's an option because we don't know how close McCarthy is or what. There's no backup plan to McCarthy in Minnesota.
No,
there's just zero. That. So some veteran goes there. I don't know if that's the leftovers of Cleveland. Somebody's going to go to Minnesota yet. Somebody's going to go to Pittsburgh, and somebody's going to go to New Orleans. I don't know what that looks like. Kirk Cousins is available too. And that's a Pittsburgh guy.
He's not available yet. He's not available. He didn't get released.
I saw. I was like, damn, they didn't get rid of this dude. It felt like
he didn't get released. He's not available. You got to pick up that big ass contract. There's no availability.
No, he's available. It's just a matter of he's got a no trade clause, so he gets to choose where he goes. That's the whole thing.
And they got to pick up that $200 million contract.
Yeah, that's way.
Well, there's a big cap hit, but a lot of that's absorbed by the cap of the Falcons. The Falcons are the guys that lose in the deal.
Falcons can make a deal with that too. They can send cash. I don't know why they do that, but they do it sometimes.
Yeah, they can. They can send cash, but it's their cap. It's their salary cap that's at their dead cap for losing them. So they're not incentivized to just send him away.
It sounds like the Saints, though. I don't think Atlanta would want to send Cousins to the Saints.
I don't
see how Cousins would want to go back to Minnesota either. it just doesn't seem like, okay, we're gonna do that again.
No,
We've already been
I
there.
really thought that I think it's an injury or Pittsburgh if Rodgers isn't there. Like I think those are the likely places for
All
Cousins.
right, I'll agree with that. But when you guys said like the whole, so of course Johnson's the rookie running back that Dan was talking about. I do like him. I think he's definitely going to be the A1, starter coming in.
He's a
gonna
stud.
He's a stud. He's going to come in. But I'm looking at like who's going to step up. Is it going to be Calvin Austin the third in that secondary role? I
He's
really
a
like
good
him.
separator. I mean, I don't know what's the kid, the second year receiver. What's the second year receiver they drafted last year? How's he? I don't know enough.
No one knows because he hasn't played. He played three downs all last year.
Roman Wilson.
He played 3 downs and he couldn't learn the playbook last year, so they didn't play him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, maybe like that's why I said
It's like drafting my dog as a receiver and trying to get him to run a route.
I mean, Austin's little, but he's a good separator. I mean, that's always been the word, and people that talk about him, like the Steelers inside the building, like him, like as a guy they look up to. Like they never looked up to Pickens when he was there, but they looked up to Austin for whatever reason. They acted like he was a god. I don't know, but like so there's a little bit of. I always say that the locker room decides your starters a little bit, right? I mean, like the guys in the locker room do decide. We want what we want, but really you notice what happens inside the locker room. Like they decide who the quarterback is. It's the locker room. Yeah. They know who they're going to play for and who they're not. And
exactly.
That's probably why Deshaun Watson flames out in Cleveland because those guys didn't want to play for him. Those guys didn't run through a wall for that guy. I mean, they just for whatever reason didn't like him. They thought he was on his own island.
He was too busy getting massages.
Could be, and I know I spoke of Wentz and you guys didn't say anything. That might be part of Wentz's problem. I'm not sure if guys like to play for him for whatever reason. He doesn't seem to. He was in Washington, nobody wanted to play for him. He was in Indy, nobody wanted to play for the guy.
Yeah, I mean, I can see it. So, but overall, like we were saying, is that without Rodgers, this could be a 7-win team. But with Rodgers, this could be a 9 to 10 win team. But outside of that, the one thing I got to say that the Steelers have outside of the other ones, let's say Minnesota. And Minnesota's okay defensively. I'm not going to say that they're that good, though. But offensively, they're geared offensively. But they still have that. And then the Saints, you have old people, contracts. You got people that literally, if a piece of paper flies onto the field, you could lose a receiver for the rest of the year. And it's getting too much out of this. It's too much out of this whack. So who do you want to put in any of those situations? And I think the Steelers, that's why Aaron's sitting back going, let me take care of my stuff. Let's get it in. But for fantasy football reasons and for reasons like that, that's when if Aaron doesn't make this decision and you're drafting right now, it doesn't have to be dynasty. It can be a dynasty startup league, and you could be looking at Rodgers, and he's definitely somebody you're not looking for long-term capability. You want to
I mean, from the dynasty aspect, though, you can't be looking under no circumstances do you draft Aaron Rodgers in your dynasty starting up. Like you gotta be obsessed with age no matter what, because what we know is Rodgers, no matter what he plays, he's not going to be here 2 years from now for sure. And I mean, I can't imagine, and you just can't ever put yourself in that hole, and unless somebody's giving it to you for free, and then I don't even know if that's worth it. Like you can't use a draft pick on a guy like that. So I guess I do think you'll know before we fantasy draft for Rodgers. But if you're doing best ball, I'd draft Rodgers. I would have no problem drafting Rodgers because I just believe that he's a Pittsburgh Steeler.
Yeah, if Rodgers is a Pittsburgh Steeler, that's what I'm saying. But right now we don't know that. So if you're doing a draft right now, like you're saying, I wouldn't draft him. But here's the reason why, like I was saying in the chat at Discord, there's a reason why Cooper Rush was always on my team. There's a reason why I've had Drew Lock on my team for the last 2 years. And it's because I've known Dak's history with his injuries. And it's kind of worked out for me over the last few years, being able to pull them in. What also has worked out for me, I was able to trade away Bryce Young, bring in Bo Nix, but also have Jared Goff. I also had Sam Howell drafted, and I had Baker Mayfield when I did my opening. So I drafted this team initially to win the championship, which they did. I had Aaron Donald. The team was stacked. But as everybody got a little older, Adam Thielen got a little older, even though he did a great at times last year. It was kind of like, now I'm having problems. Now I'm having holes. Nick Chubb is gone for the year. Nick Chubb comes back. I've got Jerome Ford, been drafted since he was a rookie. So when I'm flipping back to that and I'm looking at the draft style, I'm like, okay, that's who I have. And that's why, like, okay, my now win approach, now I have to rebuild this team. And with injuries, like what happened with Nick Chubb, that practically took my best guy, because my other guy is Aaron Jones. So I've had Aaron Jones, Nick Chubb as my two staples. And, with the back and forth, when I started the league with Doc, well, Doc started the league and he invited me in. That was it. So that's something that, I wanted to weigh in a little bit on too, is these scenarios that people might be looking at Aaron Rodgers, and where, if you're doing a startup dynasty league, that's where almost like you might be tentative on Metcalf. But if you're doing a redraft league or a league that drafts every year, you can still target DK Metcalf. In my opinion, I would not put him above anybody until that Aaron Rodgers draft. So if I was drafting right now without Aaron Rodgers signed and physically on the Steelers in Pittsburgh, I would not draft DK that high. But if he's there, I know Rodgers likes to just ham the shit out of his alpha receiver. And then I would move him up maybe a round or two, but I won't overpay for him. Hell no, I won't overpay for him.
I guess I'm a buy a discount, buy dips person. I would not buy DK or Aaron in any kind of dynasty startup because they're both over the age that I want to have players.
Course, yeah.
DK is way old for me too. Like, I'm really 25 is the oldest receiver I ever want to draft. 23 is the oldest running back I ever want to draft. And 24, 25 is the oldest quarterback. I was looking at Dalton Kincaid today in Dynasty, and I'm like, geez, this freaking guy is old. He's older than Pitts. He's old. I like him and all, but that's why I'm not that's why I like try to get out of that running back in Denver. The guy's like Miles Sanders age. Like like in a year, I'll be like, okay, this guy's way too old. Like he reminds me of Chase Brown. I got to get out of the Chase Brown business really, really hard. I have way too much shit.
For Dynasty, yes, but like for like what I was able to pull. So when I had Chase Brown, I pulled Chase Brown as a late draft pick because people already went for Zach Moss. I wrote Zach Moss, but then Moss went down, and so that let me set up, and that's what I want to get at, and that's kind of where like have it. And then Dan, like when I said, hey, if you have a question or like something to pop in, or anybody watching, if you have a question, there's a chat, hit it up. Because that's what we're here doing. We're answering these questions right now. But when I look at that and I step back, that's why people, like as a Rams fan, I may draft Devontae Adams because I'm not going to pay up for Puka Nacua because I'm drafting at the back of the draft. So there's going to be somebody that's going to draft Puka within the first 6 picks, and he's not going to fall to me. So right there, in a redraft league or just a regular league, no dynasty attached to it, I'm going to wait. And so for me, I wait and I grab Devontae Adams because I know that Puka's aggressive nature he's always plays banged up. There's always a questionable mark next to his thing. And so with Devontae Adams, but if at any point he misses, Devontae's right there. And Matt Stafford's history with Calvin Johnson, big time receivers like that too. I'm not saying that he's going to forget about Puka. Puka is the Cooper Kupp role in Los Angeles. But Devontae Adams is going to be that big-time threat that other teams are going to be like, look, we have to pay attention to him because if not, Matt Stafford isn't a dumbass. Dan, what do you think about that?
Does Adams still have it? That's what I'm asking. Does he still have? Does he still have gas in the tank? Because he really hasn't shown it in the last 2 years.
Okay, go ahead.
The eye test is what I go with. I thought that he looked pretty good in New York when he was in New York last year. The times he played, when he showed up and played, I thought he looked really good. I also think that I'm trying to kind of weigh in. remember the Rams brought in the guy from Chicago. I'm drawing a blank on the receiver, but he was a good receiver from the Jags, and then went to Chicago, and then went to the Rams. And they talked him up, and he became a zero. And
Is that Williams?
Allen Robinson.
Allen Robinson.
So I'm trying to compare it. Is that what they're bringing in? And they're saying,
Hey,
we're going to revive.
He sucked for the Steelers too.
Yeah, no, and he wasn't. Or is he still the real deal? Is he? If he's stealing for the Panthers, then he's the real deal, right? If he's stealing for the Panthers, then he's pretty good. If he's Allen Robinson for the Rams, then he's not any good. But so I'm kind of trying to read between the Steelers of what they're trying to do. I suspect he's still got it, to answer the question, Dan. I think I suspect that, but I might want to see training camp to see if he still has it. If that makes sense.
He's dialed in. I think he'll be fine, and I think that the Rams with Jordan Whittington and then them committing to Tutu Atwell. I didn't see that happening at all. If they did, they did. They're fine with Tutu Atwell. And tight end's been kind of weird for the Rams. But, we got a bunch of guys there. We draft guys like Davis Allen. And then now we're drafting another guy. So for me, overall, we know where the tight end is. It's literally Devontae Adams. And that's going to be the big guy in those receiver sets. But Pukas also plays pretty big too. So with that saying, that's what I think the Rams were feeling, that they were going to do with Tutu Atwell and maybe go back to the Oz Hakeem kind of days where everybody was locked up on Isaac Bruce and Torrey Holt. They had to respect that. And then Oz Hakeem would just have those games, man. And for me, that as a Rams fan, I totally love it. But that kind of shows where teams are. You have so many different approaches and you have so many different things, and it plays into fantasy football as well too. I'll explain that real fast, right? So you have what the Steelers are doing, the wait and approach. We have a base solid team. We have a Super Bowl caliber defense practically, and we have a good offense, young, ready to go to the future. But if Aaron Rodgers comes on, boom, we're good. But then you have the undecided teams. You have teams like Miami that should have a viable backup behind Tua Tagovailoa, and they don't make these moves. And that's what I like to consider are bad franchises. There's a reason why Les Snead and Sean McVay have been so great at what they did over the past few years. But I hated this draft, although I liked this draft for the Rams because I wanted Jahad Campbell, and I didn't get him. And he was sitting right there. And the Rams just said, hey, we're going to trade. And that pissed me off. And I said, no, we need linebackers. I hate our linebackers. And we got Dice in our linebackers last year. Space is still way too green. Unless he learns a lot, maybe he does. This is still early. Training camp's about to happen. Get all this stuff going. That's going to do it. But right now, we brought in Landman from Atlanta. I thought that was solid as well, too. But we need that. I thought we needed that next level linebacker, and I thought Campbell could have been it. It's not it. But when you compare these teams and then you step into the fantasy zone, there's always those teams that donate their money every single year. And those teams are, and those captains are big reasons that they should have a fantasy team like us, a fantasy team, and to take it. Because it's just not just the football, the baseball, the basketball, now UFC. And Dan has been amazing in his synopsis of all this UFC. He's been able to allow me to focus on the numbers, the betting, and the DFS numbers. While he doesn't even know it, he doesn't use it. I've been trying to get him to understand it, which is why he's on today. Even though he still probably won't understand it, I still love you, man. But it's okay because it's not your sauce. That's not what you do for the UFC. But to be able to take that same philosophy and be able to move it, what we were talking about earlier, it sometimes requires that extra sacrifice. And the sacrifice for me has been football season. I haven't hit any of my IDP stuff as you've asked about. And that's all starting now as I get ready for my last tournament for probably the next month or so. So while I'm focused on my fighting and everything like that and getting caught up to date with the UFC, it's been really like godsend. And I think that's where UFC, where fantasy sports are in general, because I know that a lot of people out there don't understand what the price structure is, but when you're on FanDuel and DraftKings and you're looking at different prices, it's the same reason why I'm able to go build a winning basketball lineup 2 nights ago off of no knowledge. I just look at the numbers. I look at who's starting. God, I hate basketball. I hate basketball so much with that late shit, the game time decision. I didn't got to deal for that. I'm fighting half the time. So, or I'm training half the time. So I don't have time for basketball. But we have our guys putting it out in there. And that's where I kind of look at that. But for baseball, like you were saying, you can tail Lou, you can tail Trevor, you can tail Ken when he throws out his bets, when I throw out some bets. You know, we're not always going to hit. We're trying to make the suggestions, trying to play game theory at the same time. And that's no different than fight theory. And that's what's led to a lot of big wins for the Fight Club of Pain, is because Dan's also been able to pull out some crazy numbers. And even though he doesn't know the betting side, when he hears the number and he makes those suggestions at what they should be, I mean, shit, when he was unbeaten 3 weeks ago, it was because of what he felt. And I, as a numbers person, I, as somebody who's associated with this business, didn't make that. I said, I don't think he wins. But Dan knows that because Dan watches the fights, and that's where sometimes I think people look at numbers, and it's great to know numbers, but also you have to believe in hot streaks. You have to believe that at some point, some unethical, magical bullshit is going to happen and that you're going to get lucky. And that's the same thing that happens in fantasy football, fantasy baseball, fantasy basketball, is it's not the draft that wins you the year. It's great. You can look at your team just like everybody else you draft with at that moment and say, my team's winning it. But you know what? Only one team wins it. And that team is going to be the most active team, the guy that's on the waiver wire, getting the players right before they pop. And that's huge in Dynasty as well, too. So I wanted to get all that into as we're trying to teach with the betting, because you asked that question earlier, what is my strategy? So my strategy is practically hedging as well, too. When you said that I play a lot of home dogs, I'll give you credit. When you played the home dogs, I think it was in January or February, and followed that up with a good month, but then you had an even better month, and you had made that comment halfway, that's Ed that I'm talking about, through the month. That just shows that, like, when the numbers hit, you get a nice run. And at the same time, it flies back into what I do. So when I looked at Burns, I thought if Burns wins this at all, it's only going to be by knockout. And so therefore, with all those bloated numbers on Burns, I'm going to play the least amount, a half unit, a unit only on those. But when I get to the Morales, I'm going to put more money on a total knockout, and that's what won me. The thing was, I knew somebody was getting knocked out in that fight. And so because of that, I played the 1, 2, 3, the 1, 2, the 1, and then I played knockout only. And that's been a big, big key as well, too. And I want to bring in Dan real quick for that, too, because what have you going through that journey and learning, and me learning, because I'm green as shit when it comes to the UFC, but now I feel confident that I'm able to pick a card and to be able to put out that product, because now I know the fighters, I know the stuff. So what have you seen?
What I look at the contrast of styles, man. The contrast of the fighting styles, the different stances, how people would actually throw their punches and kicks.
Yeah.
The defense that people,
Defense is big.
you know, their defense, takedown defense, especially. That's what I look at when I watch the tape, and I mean that's what I kind of key on, and how I make my judgment on who's going to win.
Okay. So
Do you guys feel that it has the betting market caught up? Like, I guess I've heard rumors that it has not, and that there's inadequacy pricing that you can really make money on basically the hedge almost, because the markets don't understand UFC fighting and how to properly price it. So then there's money to be made. You know.
And I'll throw this in. This is why I say UFC is probably one of the most unique fantasy sports and betting sports, but it's also the most you can hedge and you can win big. You can literally cover, and that's what we cover every single week on the Fight Club of Pain. Is there a chance for this finish? No. Okay, well then we're not going to worry. But a couple weeks ago, when you said, are they caught up? They're not caught up. Because guess what? I will call FanDuel out. I will call DraftKings out. I will call everything out. None of these dudes are fighters. None of these dudes are fighters because they're trying to keep their head in the game. And I'm not going to say none, So there's somebody that probably does karate or MMA of some sort on their staff. However, are they active? Are they getting punched in the face on Saturday like I'm going to? No. And that the thing is if they are, it gives you a keen insight like what Dan just said. That's where it says. This doesn't, so like in football, and this is a variable. So in football, you can get that the defense gets a fumble, the running back's at the 1, next thing you know, boom, touchdown. Running back, let's say Kyron Williams. All right, boom. Kyron Williams sprains an ankle. He's out the rest of the game. Your DFS lineup is dead. And this goes to Bellato. Bellato last week was in 90% of my lineups. The minute that fight was canceled, 3 minutes before it was supposed to start, literally just, well, DFS is done. DFS is done, but that happens. That's the variable, and that's why some of this, like FanDuel and DraftKings, they don't let you switch your roster anymore because of that reason. They want to make money. But this also was a big thing. So a few weeks ago, me and Dan, when we were on the Fight Club of Pain, we were looking at a knockout, submission, and points total, and they had it screwed up. It was all in the positive. And I said, Dan, and Dan remembers this. I go, Dan, you literally can put the 2 units on the knockout because both fighters were known for knockout. One fighter was known for submission, which brought the submission down to a 400. And the points on the fight were, I think, a 280. So knockout was plus 180. Submission was 400. Points was 280. I said, you can play this fight no matter what way this fight goes. You're either, and Ed, this is where I'm going to say, you would understand this. You're winning. You can take 3 of those or only play 2 of those, and you're going to get one of it right. You just have to make sure that that one covers the rest. And that's a mathematical equation that you can make. So when you put that in, that's why I said, and I'm going to call out SiriusXM too, because SiriusXM Fantasy should be covering UFC. They don't because they're scared shitless because they don't know shit about fighting. They don't know anybody. Nobody on that staff fights, except if you include me on the Dr. Roto staff. I'm an active fighter, and I'll say that. And if I'm wrong, they call me out. But at the same time, I'm the only one that's here every single week saying that I'm the fighter that's giving out the UFC coverage and that fantasy football stuff, right? So yes, to answer your question, sport books are way behind. And it's the same way the sport books, especially FanDuel, do not start to tackle props until after the game starts because they're scared shitless because the IDP people have an edge on them defensively. So once they exploited that edge and once they said it, now they took it away. So that's why right now, I mean, even though the fight's a week and a half away, we had FanDuel last week practically, didn't even have their DFS lineup out. And then only a month or so ago on the Friday, they canceled. And I don't know if you caught this, Ed. They canceled the entire DFS slate that had been up since Monday and re-put it up because they got the price. It was Lerone Murphy's. No, it wasn't. Was it Murphy? No, it wasn't Murphy. Yeah, was it Lerone Murphy, Dan? Because he lost. He didn't.
I think so.
Okay, yeah. It was Lerone Murphy.
I honestly haven't done DFS on FanDuel since I moved back here to New York. I'm not a huge DFS player. I didn't win a milli maker, but I play a $12 single entry for almost every slate in football, and so that's a DraftKings lineup, and it's just kind of what I've won for a couple thousand different times, and it's just I'd say once a year I hit for $5,000, and that keeps me going for a little bit, and I save the lineup, and it's what it is. And I actually do better on non-main slates for whatever reason. There's less sharps there, I guess. And I'm not real smart, so I do Monday, Thursday. Monday, Thursday, Sunday, Monday are my favorite slates, because they're just 2-game slates, and they're not showdown. They're just a little bit, of something. But it's kind of interesting hearing you guys talk. So I don't do a ton of that because that's more like. It feels like golf betting to me. So I do bet golf. I'm in the Dr. Roto or Dangerous, tournament thing and holding my own. But even this week, I sit there and I'm like, okay, I got a couple $100 in golf, so I feel like I have to go win that in baseball to just make golf a break even for myself, and Yeah.
So
That's
I look at it like that. Like you bring up another good point too. That again, this goes back to you being able to take different numbers and move them along. But we go back to what Trevor did last year. It wasn't just that Trevor had those big hits. It was watching the story happen, watching it go down. We all watched it go down within that time that guy won 200K in our lineup, right? In our thing, and then disappeared. Yeah, he won 200K, right? So when
yeah.
he disappeared, Trevor was hot at the same time too. And if you notice, when he got hot, he had that big hit. It allowed Trevor to use our tools, the optimizers, so that he could max bet some of those. And then the next thing you know, he max bets a showdown slate on Thursday and wins $75,000. But what people go is, well, he won $75,000, but they didn't look at the other things he played with. And because he was maxed bet, he took first, he took 10th, he took 29th, he took 50th, he took 100th, he took 1,000th, 100th, he took 2,551st. Like, he won a chunk. And that starts with the base. That starts with that first big hit, building your bankroll and going forward with it. And that's what we stress at Dr. Roto. We stress building your bankroll and going forward. So, like when Dan did join my fantasy football league last year, and when he joined it, it has IDP players. And that's what something you were asking about. Ed was talking about IDP. And that's another equation on the betting end that we just talked about, that the same goes for why it's almost like Chinese to a lot of people, or whatever language you don't understand. That's IDP. And that is why a lot of those leagues you can exploit. When I was able to, now in my one league, they've been watching a lot of my content. There's one guy that watches it and will not admitted it to one of my friends. Then my friend went and called him out at the draft last year, and he was doing the shut up, don't say that, don't say that. And I'm like, oh, you a fan, bro? Just say it, dude. You listen to my shit. Like, don't hate, bro. Love, because that's what we want you to do. We want to hear about those great things, and the ideas that go into it. So for me, when you go IDP, a lot of people go name value. People are gonna go TJ Watt immediately. And that's because of what TJ Watt brings. But sometimes with them thinking about TJ Watt first, they don't think about Roquan Smith. They don't understand why Zaire Franklin quietly led the league in tackles again. And that's even with me pushing EJ Speed last year, which EJ Speed did good. But I was able to get EJ Speed in the last round, whereas that guy had to pay up to get Zaire Franklin or Roquan Smith. So that's the strategy in almost anything. I mean, right now, I'm in a dynasty draft that just started at 7 o'clock, and I picked 10th, and they were like, hey. And I was like, let me just tell you this, guys. If it actually makes it to the 10th pick, I'll pick it live. But at the same time, I don't think it's going to pick it, because in these slow draft leagues, nobody feels obligated to pick right away. And that's fine. That's fine. So for me, that's what you take. You take the sauce, you learn from it. But everybody has a build. In the league that I was just talking about, they went tight end premium. I selected Sam Laporta in the first round. Could have picked anybody else, Kenneth Walker, anybody else in that first round. I took Sam Laporta. I took in the third round. Now this is a redraft league, so Josh Allen was my keeper, and he's been the best quarterback forever in this league for the past 6 years. Definitely a reason why I've taken third place, no less, and first place multiple times over the past 6 years now, is because of Josh Allen. They even took the keepers from 2 to 1 because of that. And what allowed me is, next thing you know, I'm drafting Evan Ingram in my third pick. I literally gave these dudes the lead. And what came down to it was Zach Charbonnet. What came down to it was Chase Brown. By the end of the year, I was solid while all them dudes was lost. And even though Kenneth Walker came back, it didn't matter to me. I already had my sauce. And I was able, because they did a payout on Thanksgiving for Thanksgiving Day games, I traded Sam Laporta for Mike Evans straight up, which completely worked out for me. Mind you, the tight end / receiver position is in this league as well too. So I don't even have to play a tight end. I literally was able to do that. So again, trading and waiver wire is big. So I want to bring in Dan with that. Do you understand that part of it?
Yeah, I understand all that. I mean, I've been in fantasy leagues before. It's just you throw out all kinds of like 3-letter like things to
So
me,
like
and
GPP and
yeah,
Dynasty.
Well,
yeah, you
those are daily fantasy jargony things, Dan.
so
I guess
you
what I think that you really, what I coach people to do in fantasy is really understand the players, which you do. You understand the Steelers. You have to understand the players, and then there's no. I feel like you can have a great team, but it's like the NFL. All the 31 teams go home unhappy. One team wins the Super Bowl.
Yep.
If you're in a 12-team league or a 10-team league, 9 teams or 11 teams go home sad, don't have any money or very little to show for it. There's one champ. And the difference between the champ and not the champ is a lot of times a little bit of luck. It's not, I don't want to say it's all luck because there's a lot of skill involved in it, but there's a reason that I think of my 6 championships I won this past year. I think one was out of the 1 seed. The other 5 were 4, 5, and 6 seeds winning championships. And what that tells me is I think I had 12 1 seeds. So I had 12 1 seeds and only one converted to a championship. So I'm sitting here with buys and I'm saying to myself, we're going to the playoffs. I'm like, yeah, I got 32 teams in the playoffs. I'm like the freaking king. Like I'm like, holding myself saying how big I am. And then, every week I'm dropping it in half and I'm like, I was actually dejected with 6 championships. I'm all pissed off. I'm like, I thought I had more, I have 65 teams. I should be freaking more than 10%. But the numbers really do say 10% is pretty good. But, I was just kind of saying to myself, you got to be kidding me that I can't win more than this. And I'm like, I look at teams on paper in the spring and I'm like, oh, this team is great. And those teams fail to make the playoffs. And I have some rules that I really live by. And one of them is I don't trade away first-round picks unless I know I'm going to win money. I traded away 1 out of 65 first-round picks, and I didn't win money. So as that rookie draft is going right now, and I'm a spectator with my Tyreek Hill share, that I'm like, what in God's name was I thinking? And you guys as a Rams fan are probably – I'm not sure. I wanted to ask you guys this because the questions I have about your teams, and I think I always say the people that follow their teams – give me the most insight on their teams. It doesn't mean that I listen to every word you say, but I feel like you're at least in tune to what the media is telling you about your team. And both of your teams, in my mind, I'm unsure of what the running back rooms and rotations and or roster cuts. I still believe that there's a guy on both of your teams at running back that may not make the team. I wouldn't be shocked because I don't know. Kyron Williams to me is $4.5 million against the cap if he's cut, and I don't see how that might not happen. I'm not saying it's gonna happen. I just think it seems a little bit curious to me that they're blaming every Matt Stafford sack on the running back room, and they're saying that they're dropping. Yeah. Les Snead dropped the other day. He dropped a little statement about how. Kyron's yards per carry is less than his amount of fumbles. He's like blasting hell. And so I decided to look. I'm like, you know what? What was Kyron's rookie year like? He didn't play. It was looked like Blake Corum. I took their sleeper profiles and I put them back to back. And then I'm like, if that's what year 1 is for Kyron, late round draft pick, and Corum, let's look at how quick did Gurley go? Because I remember being shocked that Gurley wasn't a thing. I remember being shocked that Cam Akers wasn't going to play after a good year. Yeah. And then I looked at Cam Akers' final games that year where he was good and didn't start the next year to Kyron. And I looked at Kyron's last year, and I'm like, these are freaking identical. This is identical. And
it's the system.
And I'm like, I don't know. And he's not – he's a late-round draft pick. What's different than James Robinson or Pierce from – I don't know. I don't know if it's any different than Pierce or Marlon Mack.
Yeah, I liked Marlon Mack too. I thought he was pretty cool. But so it's a system. It's the same way if you want to look at the Kubiak system through Denver and how this year that same system falls with Clint in Seattle. So a lot of people are going to be looking at Seattle and going, okay, we know this run game exists. We know that it's going to produce. So Kenneth Walker and Charbonnet, easy pickups. Definitely you want to handcuff them, and you might have to take them almost back to back.
Right.
Like,
I
if
bet.
you want that this year, you got to do back to back. So Dan, handcuffing, of course, is taking the backup running back. Some people don't see the reason in it, but a couple of years ago, I was starting Ramondre Stevenson in the playoffs. Ramondre Stevenson and was it James White or no, Dion Lewis, whatever. Anyway, I was starting them back. I was starting one in flex and one at running back because there wasn't a lot of good options out there, but I knew that the Patriots were using both running backs. And so for that was really beneficial. It's no different than when you would use like, a thunder and lightning kind of approach, but it's not typical. You're not going to do that. So to build that team, you have to just have things fall in your place and you don't overpay. And I know Ed, you don't overpay because you have an age limit on your stuff, especially when it comes to dynasty. So that's what I wanted today to be focused on is, we talked a lot about football in roster construction, especially with the Steelers and being able to talk about the different things. But these are all questions. These are all concerns that people have right now while they're drafting, and they need these things talked about. And again, another thing that you brought up real quick, Ed, that when you were talking about what do I do? So for me, I'm like a chameleon. Ooh, yeah. I love to kind of mold to the draft. But when I said that I did those double tight ends, I like to break drafts. I like to physically just harm a draft, take a player that just screws everybody's shit up. And then they go, well, damn, why do you do that? And so for me, that strategy, I knew, again, I'll take these tight ends, and right there, I'm going to just whip everybody. And it's going to throw off their schedule because all of them just found out it was a tight end premium league. So I scared them into other picks. So after they started picking in the middle, that's where I was able to round out my running backs and able to get Charbonnet and Chase Brown easily with no kind of restraints and everything, and just be able to fill out the roster. And that's where it kind of spills into DFS as well too. You want a good quarterback for a seasonal dynasty, but in DFS you can punt quarterbacks because it's someone like Fields at $5,000 that can win you that $1 million. And it's also like the way the tight ends work, or what I do with pitchers. I've been calling myself the shitty pitcher whisperer for over a decade because I have a way of picking shitty pitchers at the right moment in the right spot. And that comes back to numbers. And you play in Colorado. So people know that Colorado, the Rockies away from Coors Field are junk sometimes. Sometimes they can surprise you. The last couple days, definitely you saw some of the scores that they had. But at the same time, I'm still going to attack that pitching, even though it isn't in Colorado, because it's still like people like Sens and Tala, and they're still junk to me. I'm still going to target them. I'm just going to target them when they're playing the Dodgers, because we know the Dodgers are going to roll lefties out there, and that comes into the batter versus pitcher theory. So, and that's another thing that I know, Dan, I mean, you understand batter versus pitcher. It's pretty much, the batter, and that's not even in his sight. But Dan doesn't watch baseball at all, so I'll lose him on that one. But
He's got his Pirates hat on.
I live in Pittsburgh, man.
There's a lot of Pirates.
Permani Brothers, right? Permani Brothers.
Yeah. It's just a Pittsburgh P. That's all. It doesn't mean Pirates.
I knew the Permani Brothers, and last NFL game I was at was to see my buddy coaching in Pittsburgh. Actually saw Justin Fields. That's what he was in the Bears at. But got to see a little bit.
So we got this. We got it. I think that if people want to talk to us a lot more, that they could come to Dr. Roto, they can come to the things. But right now, I want to get to the last subject, because we've definitely gone a long time, and I think that people definitely should have learned a lot from this. Different betting strategies, like what you use and what you put into the Subs Only Discord, betting hold sides, betting hold months, and running the numbers in using the numbers against the books. Or then you have my side and Dan's side, where we're able to break down fighters. And again, this is why I say UFC is different. At any moment, Moises felt this week, and this, Ed, I know that you probably didn't. You might get a little lost on this. So Moises was to beat the hell out of Gabe Green. and Moises was beating Green badly. And at that moment, Moises goes, "Hey, I think a triangle choke would be a cute thing to do." And that would have been a great bet to win. But unfortunately, the better bet, Gabe Green tapping him out, was even better because what happened was the favorite, the dude whipping some ass, fell over and got his ass tapped. And that's something that doesn't happen in football, baseball, basketball, hockey, golf. Yeah, your golfer can miss the card, but your golfer can't go from "I'm on top of the world" to being dirt knocked out in 3 seconds. Actually, a half a second. And that's why I'm gonna stand on it, and I'm gonna run my damn gums that UFC is not only the most intriguing DFS sport for me right now, but it definitely can be exploited. In the fact that you brought that up, and the fact that you were able to do that, that shows. And that is what we're here for at Dr. Roto. But I want one thing, maybe one, let's skip it to one thing. Best sports moment ever that you've ever lived at. Dan, we're going to start with you. You don't have to make it long-winded. Give me something. Give me what made it greater than ever. What interaction did you have?
The Santonio Holmes catching the Super Bowl from Ben Roethlisberger, man.
Okay. All right.
Greatest catch in the Super Bowl ever.
I think that's solid. Solid. I'm not going to disagree with that at all. We all know my wife was jumping up and down when that catch happened. Hey.
Well, geez, I think they were probably playing my then fandom Arizona Cardinals. I think that in that Super Bowl, if I remember right. But
I was trying not to bring up Kurt Warner. Okay.
But I, I then moved on, and now I'm just a football fan. So my best sportsy moment was at the '93 World Series of the Phillies, and was able to go to a game live and see them win one of the few games that they won in that series against the Blue Jays. They didn't win the whole World Series, but just a memorable time, and to be part of the Philly fandom. Philly fans are unique for sure. And so 1993, we'll go to the Wayback Machine.
Awesome.
And that was fun. And so I didn't realize then that sports, sometimes your opportunity to see those kind of things live become very few and far between. And so the only World Series I've ever been to. So yeah, that was cool.
I'll say mine real, and this it's not a two-parter, but it is a two-parter because in my heart, it was when the St. Louis Rams won a Super Bowl. I for years got hounded through high school that the Rams suck, all because of Jim Everett. Check it, Chris Everett, yeah, right. And then we went to T.J. Rubley, Tony Banks, Chris Miller, literally just was gone from the go. The Rams were never the same. And then they
Trent Green. You forgot Trent Green.
We got Trent Green, and that led to Kurt Warner. Now the Super Bowl win was epic. I was all over the place. I was a complete shit, right? I was stressing. Everybody at the party's laughing at my ass, but it wasn't the same because it wasn't the L.A. Rams.
Was that the half-yard reach? Was that the half-yard reach? Yeah, that was the reach.
That was the Dyson and Jones, and I knew when Mike Jones,
away,
Mike Jones would make that catch. But watching the Los Angeles Rams, the actual Rams, after I saw everybody say they're not going back to LA, I was like, it's in SoFi Stadium. I don't care if you say it was scripted or not. We were there. But the sheer fact that I got a message from a friend that I talked to every so often. He was in the Army on the first one. But when the Rams won, he goes, "You're one of the truest, longest LA Ram fans I ever known." And I never thought that the Rams would win a Super Bowl in LA. And they did. And that Super Bowl meant more than the St. Louis Super Bowl, which was the best thing I'd ever seen. And at that point, I had to take it. It was like, it's okay. And then people go, "What about the Cleveland Rams and your little championships in the Cleveland Rams?" And I was like, "Oh, that's cute. That's cute. Oh, what about the Steelers waxing us in the 79 or it was that 80 Super Bowl, right?" So they and that was the super team. The Rams were nowhere near the level that they were. Jack Youngblood, playing a Super Bowl with a broken leg. While we got basketball players out there can't take the court because they're tired, right?
They got a hangnail. I got a hangnail. I can't play tonight.
And we see this happening, but that was a super team. We beat Dallas. We beat Dallas during that playoff run, that team was super. That was a good team, and we were able to beat them. We were able to make the Super Bowl and go head to head with one of the greatest dynasties and the greatest dynasty of the '70s, the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Greatest dynasty of all time, bro.
Yeah.
All time.
I'll say this: the '78 Steelers were the best team of all those. That's my opinion. Ed?
Well, so that was kind of before my football watching time in the 70s. I wasn't a football watcher in the 70s. I was more of an 80s guy.
So
when
who the
it all
80s?
started.
Tell us, 80s. Who owned it? Was it the Niners?
The Niners. Man.
I feel like the 49ers were just unstoppable back. Steve Young and Joe Montana were just so good with Roger Craig. And that offense, even John Taylor, like the number 2 was a stud. Like, yeah, Tom Rathman. He could hit. He like fighters. He was a hitter.
Ronnie Lott, man. Ronnie Lott was a stud.
He could hit. Yeah, he could hit.
They had it all, man. They it was the perfect team. It's what you want. Brent Jones. And you had every weapon that you could ever want all these times. And that's what we're talking about, weapons. Sometimes if you have a decent quarterback, you can see somebody like Trent Dilfer win a Super Bowl. But at the same time, or Brad Johnson, just these.
Yeah, no, I mean, we always make fun of system quarterbacks, but it's really being able to check out a bad place at the line. That's what, I think that's what those guys that you mentioned could do. Yeah. They weren't as skilled probably as other people, but they were just so smart between the years that they could check out a bad plays. And when you can check out a bad plays, all the skill levels similar. It's not like this guy is a superhuman and this guy is awful. Like they're all in the same. They're all in the same. It just comes down to who is able to understand what they're seeing on defense and check out a bad place. I mean, that's
right.
I mean, the only superhuman I've ever seen play football was Barry Sanders. Man, he was superhuman.
Oh, he was
okay,
I did see him live. That was a fun experience. I saw him in a playoff game.
I never did.
In Philly.
And you seen him then too?
And
I saw him in Pittsburgh too. I was there when he tore Rod Woodson's knee in half by shaking him.
I mean, he could just move like No, he was. I mean, AP. Damian Tomlinson. Yeah, I mean, all these. A lot of these guys were. And Barry and Emmett, and I mean, these guys, they all did a little different, but Gale Sayers,
those guys,
Peyton.
Gale Sayers not to be, forgotten about. I mean, because if they had the ACL technology back then that we had, he could have played a couple more years. Like he was doing it all. That was back then. Like, like you got Travis. We had this discussion with Travis Hunter right now, and they're all leaving out like, oh, he's not running routes, blah blah blah. Look, I'm not buying any of that, right? But what I know.
I have to interject because I feel like this is a place that you could make money if people are watching on Travis Hunter. Just remember back to 2021, we were in training camp and everybody was talking about Chase having the dropsies and how he was going to be awful.
Yeah.
And people were just, this is so Travis Hunter. Like, buy that dip. And great. Tell me how terrible he is. Just keep giving me shares. Like, please, just give me shares. Like,
I agree. Like, he's gonna be somebody that's gonna hit. But like when you posted, you had the first overall pick, and I'm like, dude, Gianti, man, that's for me. I like a solid, but you were looking at it from an IDB standpoint too, saying that he's gonna get tackles, he's gonna get yards. So that's kind of like the idea.
I was more thinking that the average DB gets me about 12 points a week. And if I could put Travis Hunter in a DB spot and get 20 as a receiver in the DB spot, like I get those receiver points in a DB, I thought, oh, that's pretty good. He did go number 2. I did take Genty, but I felt like maybe there'll be a time when somebody will get tired of him or he won't play real well, and I'll swoop in and get him. Like, I just was
No,
envisioning
great.
like, oh, I have great receivers. I have Marvin Harrison and Chase at receiver. If I could put Hunter at DB, and then I've got 3 receivers giving me points, but I have this guy stashed in like a obscure flex. Like it's not even a flex that anybody else can use. I'm now flexing out another receiver somewhere where everybody else has got to put some sloozy. I'm kind of winning the game, but I thought, well, if Genty's good, I don't want to pass on him, and that feels like a dumb move. And I'm 10 shares into Genty now, so I guess I have a lot of him.
What you take right there, it all makes sense. So if Travis Hunter doesn't get to play, Travis Hunter doesn't perform well, you might be able to offer a first or a second round pick and maybe a player at this point to get him, and then you can just steal and you'll have both. Right. So but nobody, like, that's what I'm saying. You have a chance to actually trade for Hunter. I don't think you would have a chance to trade for Gianti unless he completely implodes. And I don't.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Genty's going to follow the Bijan path where it's just there's no good after draft day. There's no good time to buy unless it just isn't a good time to buy.
Yeah, and I know, Dan, you brought up Gianti a lot too during the draft podcast. I mean, between the two, if you were picking first overall, where would you go?
Probably Genty.
I thought you were going to say Hunter, and then I was going to be like, no.
I can't. I don't like Travis Hunter. I'm not a fan.
I like him as a person. Okay. He's a really cool dude, though.
Not a fan. I think he's average at both.
So you like Tet better? Positions. Do you like Tet as a receiver better, or do you like?
Yeah, I think Travis Hunter's average at both positions.
What about? I mean, who do you like as your best receiver in the rookie class?
Oh, in the rookie class. What?
Do you like Tet or do you like Egbuka?
I forget his name.
Golden?
Might be Golden.
He's Green Bay.
Golden?
Yeah. Might be Gold. I think so. Yeah.
Sure.
But he's big dude. I forget it.
Is it McMillan?
Well, Tet's a big dude. That's 6'4".
Are you talking Burden?
Yeah. Burden.
For Chicago. Okay.
Yeah.
That's who you're talking.
I've been getting him.
I forgot his name.
Rounder, but I've been getting him a lot in the second round recently.
Mm-hmm.
Been kind of.
It's really like I don't like even this draft. This again, first pick only. Second person can't even pick, and I'm not worried about making those things. I would definitely have gone Tet. That's when I did the Carolina Panthers outlook. I had them taking Tet because I didn't think they should take Tet, but I thought that if you're going to give Bryce Young weapons, and you had Leggett work out for you, you still have Thielen on the roster. The tight ends are pretty much just Tice throw them in dime, and they don't really care. They're blocking. So I thought that made the most sense bringing in McMillan, and for them. But I agree. Like I think that Chicago doesn't really have to feel like, even though Burden's come up with another injury and you kind of get this writing on the wall that he's going to be maybe hurt a lot. You're getting scared. Maybe Jordan Reed, let's not be like Jordan Reed. That guy, okay, glass. Like, we don't want that. But he can move on this Bears roster. He can definitely get a starting position if he's just plays. DJ Moore is going to explode. Like, this team has the weapons, and that's what Carolina's trying to do and trying to put it together. And I think that's what it comes down to when it comes down to the weapons.
I guess I'm wondering, and I don't know this for sure, but I guess I wonder if DJ Moore is long for the Bears because they brought in this coach. This coach is not impressed with him. Inside the building, there's a little bit of clamoring. He's got a big contract. I think he has value in the open market. There's people who would want him, and it feels like this Burden pick wasn't by accident. Yeah,
Steelers will take him.
I heard Olave. I heard that they're working with Olave or something. There's some study to that, but
he's always hurt.
Yeah,
a lot of concussions.
Covered that.
But maybe more. I could see more. The reason I could see more is they already have at an ability to trade with the Bears, right? We know that
Yeah.
the Justin Fields, they
Yep.
like you said about being hot. It's kind of like that when there's a
They have the
working relationship
relationship.
with the front offices.
And they
matters.
sent Chase Claypool packing to the Bears, right? Yeah.
Woo, you
Is
guys
he
are-
in Miami or is he in Buffalo or where is Chase Claypool?
I don't even know if he's in the league.
I think
He was late last year. He was on somebody's like practice squad. He was signed.
Yeah. Poor guy,
Yeah.
man. And Juju Smith, at least he found his way to Kansas City and won me 1 week, and won me some DFS money in some 1 week. But man,
Yeah, he's back.
That's awesome.
I mean, he's back. I don't know what. He's a guy that I love to talk ball, as you guys can see. What do you think of Jalen Warren? I gotta ask that before.
I love him. I've always liked him. I liked him since his rookie year.
Towards the cap this year. Is that Kenny Gainwell isn't the replacement? You don't think?
Nope. I think he's. I think the rookie's going to get the. He's going to take most of the snaps. I think Warren's going to keep his third down in special.
I thought maybe the rookie Caleb Johnson gets the snaps and Kenny Gainwell comes in and they need $4 million for the defensive guy, and all of a sudden that's a Warren cap casualty, and off to Tennessee Titan land he goes.
I think
Mason Rudolph went.
I think Gainwell returns punts and kicks because we have no kick returner.
That would
okay.
Well, no, Austin the third was
Austin. I was just going to ask you about Austin. Isn't Austin a returner?
He's good at punts, but his kickoff returns, he gets to the 5-yard line and he falls over.
Yeah, that's Gainwell shit. That's Gainwell stuff. That's definite. And I would want to get Calvin Austin if we're not going to bring in another receiver and we're going to keep Roman Wilson eating alphabets and Cheerios on the sideline at home, whatever.
Yeah.
If we're going to do that, you got to get Austin on the offense more. We don't need him tired. Let's put Gainwell back at, for kick return, of course. He'll already be doing that. I don't know about the punt return. We could probably throw somebody else. Maybe that's what Roman Wilson does. But we need to get more. We need to keep Calvin Austin fresh.
I mean, we also signed old-ass Robert Woods. So,
dude, he's your Swiss Army knife, man. Bobby Trees.
Bobby Trees.
And everyone forgets about Ben Skronik. Ben Skronik.
Trees and Skronik are both kick returners.
Yeah.
In the past.
Yep. So
there you go. And that's a way for them to stay on the roster is, to be on the return teams.
And we got the best receiver in the league, Scotty Miller. That's our receiver room.
Invite me back. I'll be interested to hear what you tell me the outlook of the Rams and the Steelers are. Let's see how.
Yeah, we're definitely going to do this again, definitely, because I can't.
I'm interested in those two teams for sure.
I was like, Dan, 20 minutes, right? We're at 1 hour and 32 minutes, giving tons of all this stuff, and I do want to say, Dan, thanks for putting up with me and Ed, because I knew me and Ed were going to come in here and flap some gums.
I was listening. I was daydreaming some of the time. I'm not going to lie to you.
Hey, and that's fine because, like I said, aces in their places. And Dan, I don't need to say anything more. Definitely a big, huge part of the Fight Club of Pain. So, Ed, tell everybody where they can find you at. Plug all of your stuff right now, whatever you can remember. I know that sometimes, so that people can find you.
So I do post all my stuff at drroto.com for articles, and then also in the Discord, I have a Dynasty channel there where we talk all things Dynasty, and I have 65 teams. So pretty much, if it's happening in the Dynasty world, I feel like I see it, and so when I keep track of. I
wouldn't have time
all the time, right? So I've got a quarterback spreadsheet. I've got draft spreadsheets. I pretty much know not only what I have as far as player pool, but I know what every one of my competitors has on their team and where their weaknesses are. And that really, the analytics behind that really helps me understand what they're trying to do. So when he says he controls the draft, I try to control a 12-person draft with one person. And that's really the art of making sure I have what everybody needs. So when they need a player, they have to call me, which means they have to pay whatever price I ask.
That's commitment. That's commitment.
I kept Watson a couple of years ago when he was going to come back with the suspension. I kept him on my roster, and I waited until the end of the week, and someone went to go trade for him, and I was like, nope, because there was no quarterbacks. Literally pulled the defensive moves, didn't make the trade, and just let his ass get bounced from the playoffs with a backup quarterback that he had to go for because due to an injury. So it was kind of like, you play that defensive move, but that's it. Dan, plug yourself.
I'm on X now. That's about it, and I'm on the Fight Club of Pain.
Yeah. I'm gonna try to work. Like I said, I want to get you in the Discord at least, not so much on the site, but I want to get you in the Discord so that you could kind of talk the fight theory at least, so that it's not so much just me in there alone talking, bringing in. But we'll get all that going. Everybody, get the Dr. Roto. We have tons of rankings. Of course, you just heard Fantasy Clown Ed talk about his. We have Chris dropping his right now, one of the top rankers last year. We got Dr. Roto gearing up, ready to bring the pain for Sundays when we do the shows, both DFS and seasonal start and sits. You think he's great on SiriusXM? You get so much more of Doc at our site on Sundays. You heard Ed talk it up. He's literally just listening to us popping in plays. And guess what? One of you, it could be Dan, it could be Ed, somebody is going to win another 6 digits this year at Dr. Roto, maybe 7 digits this year. I mean, Trevor almost pulled $1 million. And I don't know if I should say that, but I'm saying it. But, I mean, he did that with the beginning and being able to build and use the numbers and taking that money and going on there, and that's what we taught. I want to say thank you, Dan. I want to say thank you, Ed, for coming on Bring the Pain / the Fight Club of Pain to talk football. And going forward, Thursdays, the Fight Club of Pain will do the UFC. We'll be back next for the UFC 107 Vegas. Blanchfield, you saw on Tuesday, I already got it written up. Blanchfield versus Barber. We're going to have some gems off of those 2 cans.
We got to talk about that fight because we were arguing about it last night.
Oh, dude, I already watched all the talk on that.
Gotta talk about that one.
Dude,
I'll look forward to winning some cash, guys. I'm going to win some cash.
Dude, you'll do it. And then also during the year, Thursdays, I will be giving out my Macho Pick of the Week on Tuesday on my review show. So the Macho Pick will be on Tuesday. We will do the UFC / I will be giving out a DFS lineup and NFL bets for Thursday Night Football on it. Yes, we will get this podcast done before the Thursday night game starts. So we're going to get that. You will get the Ultra Contrarian show on Saturday. And don't think that I'm not going to want to talk shit. I will have a 4th show that I'm going to run my damn mouth on over some player that deserves to have the pain brought. Guys, I can't wait to do it again. Have a great day, everybody, and always remember to bring the pain like I am this Saturday when the champ is here. Yeah. Woo. Bye, guys.
Your body. So let's get to
the burn.
Thanks for stopping by the office. Get your fantasy prescription by subscribing to the channel and checking out drroto.com. Until the next visit, be well and take care.